Do you see, my friend? I was thinking about the concept of chimping out. You know, what what is it that causes people to chimp out? So of course I was thinking about the chimping out. I have a friend that chimps out. Yeah, he's not a buckwheat, but he chimps out. He's chimped out so much that I'm kind of afraid to be around him right now because we're not getting along. And that's when he chimps out. But the black people have been enslaved, okay? And people don't really put it in any kind of context because you just think of that, well, they were slaves. And this is grist for the chimp out, you know. I need to look that word up, grist, because I'm not sure I used it correctly. Let me go check it out here before I go too far. Yeah, okay. I used it in a correct sense, but I did learn something by looking it up too. So yeah, the concept I was going for was grist for the chimp out mill. Grist for the mill, grist for the chimp out mill. So once you 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 make the you make this point that okay, the blacks were enslaved, then all of a sudden you're setting blacks up to think of themselves as particularly oppressed people, and of course we all know that they weren't. And insofar as we're talking about their ancestors in slavery, in particular, you know, they are more than 50% culpable. Their ancestors are far more than 50% culpable for their enslavement, for the worst periods, the worst parts of that enslavement, because it went in stages, of course. And they're also responsible for for failing to take advantage of the freedoms that were given to them by European people, who gave them the benefit of the doubt that they could be integrated into our society. It doesn't matter that we're capable of living together, even unfortunately breeding together. All of these things don't make us equal. Okay, just because they are hominids or just because they are humans, that doesn't mean we're equal. European people did something that probably would not have happened if it had not been for European people and their particular religion, which became something very European. You know, Christianity did become something very European. So you don't give the Middle Easterners, you know, the people that claim origin to Christianity, even though they're basically the ones that tried to stamp it out. So it's kind of ironic that you would give them any credit at all for Christianity when it's only Jesus that should get credit for Christianity and the early Christians. Anyways, that of course became something that was integrated into European civilization, and it wasn't integrated into Middle Eastern civilization nearly as much. And I'm not blaming the Middle Eastern people for this, by the way. I'm not. I think that they fought against Rome, and we fought against Rome. We fought against Rome later than they did. They fought against Rome earlier, and they had their own reasons for fighting against Rome. And we had similar reasons. Also, some of the European people no longer exist because they were wiped out. Three entire nations of people were wiped out by fighting Rome because they had a different view of Christianity. And so I just wanted to make that point and get back to what I was talking about, this chimp out stuff. As you know, this is free thought, free thinking, thinking out loud. So the 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 thing I was thinking about is what causes buckwheats to chimp out the way they do. And if you if you look back into slavery as how popular it was around the world, there's a popular video going around on the internet about this guy who had developed this concept of the Koreans being kind of like like such great people because they didn't have slaves. So he's saying, "Oh, the Koreans," and then this other guy said, "What are you talking about? Do you think Asians weren't brutal people? The Asians weren't enslaving people?" And so he tried to make the point. No, we're talking about Koreans. I'm talking about Koreans. And then somebody looks up on the internet, you know, for what it's worth, Wikipedia probably, and it says the Koreans had a bunch of slaves. In fact, it said something like they were like the most enslaving. It's pretty funny because the guy starts laughing and it's, oh my god, we were scumbags. But anyway, I've seen that thing 3 times on the internet, and it's kind of funny. But this this problem that we have with the chimp outs, it comes from black people being given license to basically have these chimp out sessions where somebody says something, and then in a situation where most of us can understand, you might get yourself into a fight. For instance, there's a number of things you can say to a person where you will get them to challenge you. So challenging, you could even say that the tendency of men to have a duel, to ask for a duel. You go up and you slap somebody in the face with a glove and drop it on the ground or whatever they used to do to ask somebody for a duel. Okay, so you either duel this person or you're what? You're a pussy, and then that has consequences within your circles, or you apologize or whatever. I don't know what you do if you don't want to duel, other than to just say no and run away. But at any rate, the chimping out of blacks is something that's invited in our society. We invite the chimp out, but the chimp out is constantly expanding. We call this if you're at work and your duties are constantly expanding, they call it mission creep. And this is something that buckwheat is doing with this whole thing about the having been slaves is that they have the indignation, the the idea of being a racist is so extensive now. This is also something that has suffered from mission creep. Is racism has come to mean essentially white supremacy, because only whites can be racist, and it's also essentially become something that the kosher peoples have pretended that they're so worried about the white supremacy and so worried about racism because of the Holocaust, okay? And they've just been exploiting it. They've been exploiting it so that if I don't know, I have to be careful what I say here, but they can basically say that the most wicked things about white people. You constantly hear kosher people saying things like the white people are the worst, that there's no reason to save them, it will be a great thing when they go extinct, and they don't even look at themselves. If they look at themselves in history like a person looks in the mirror, they'd see that they are indeed the ugliest people. They are the initial genociders. They have a religion. Deuteronomy, I think it's Deuteronomy 2016. I believe that's what it is. They kill everybody, kill all of these people. You got all these nations of people living down there. The Canaanites are one of them. Kill the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Jebusites. They there's even more than that. But then it gives this ridiculous explanation for it, and because of this ridiculous explanation, it really tells you that this could not possibly have been from God, inspiration from God, because it says if you don't kill everything that breathes, that is in the land that I have given you. A little bit self-serving there, because if you don't kill them all, if you allow them to live, then they will teach your people to practice the ways that they worship. So this is really an astonishing thing to find about a God that they claim created the earth in 6 days. Okay, he's worried that when he starts a religion, so he starts a religion, a tribal religion, according to the Hebrews. Okay, he starts this religion. Then he tells these people, I gave this land to one of your ancestors. I gave it to this guy, this Abraham guy. I made a promise to him, okay? I gave this land to him, and then, somehow he took off, disappeared for hundreds of years, and now you're coming back, and I'm re-giving it to you, or whatever, and I want you to kill everybody off that's there. I want you to... This is in addition to killing off other people, like this other tribe, the Amalekites. I think Amalek may have been in there, but at any rate, they keep talking about uprooting Amalek. Like God, Hashem hides his face until Amalek has been uprooted from the earth, and then they go around accusing everyone that they don't like of being Amalek, in particular Europeans and Edom. Oh, they're the descendants of Esau. If they're the descendants of Esau, they're also the seed of Abraham, and since Abraham was given that land, then that would make the descendants of Esau also owners of that land. They don't ever think of it that way. They think, oh no, it's just us, us kosher people. Okay, the descendants of Esau are the descendants. Yeah, but they aren't the descendants of the promise because they sold the birthright. They're still the seed of Abraham, whether they sold the birthright or not. They're still the seed, because their concept of the seed is that it's genetic somehow. But at some time they had to do. God must have done something so that they don't have the descendants of Jacob. It must be the descendant of Jacob, and not the descendant of Abraham, not the seed of Abraham. Oh, they're just crazy people. This is why you shouldn't believe the stuff you read in the Bible so much. You always have to look at the Bible through the lens of Christianity, because Jesus came back, and then you can read the Bible and say, there's no way Jesus would agree with that. There's no way Jesus would accept that. But instead of what Christians do, and this is why you wind up with Christian Zionism, is because they decide, well, what I think here is that we have to understand that this was the earlier covenant. This was the previous religion, and now we have a different religion. We have one religion for them and one religion for the Gentiles. We have one for the kosher people and one for the Christians. It's ridiculous. Just a minute here. Okay. So when you read that, this is what I'm reading into. As soon as I read that, okay, excuse me for anthropomorphizing this text, because I'm saying it's not from God. And by reading through it, applying the principle that everything that you read in the Bible has to be consistent with Jesus, with what Jesus would have said. It's essentially that koshers would have us believe that the God who created the world and human beings, Adam and Eve, is saying that if you don't wipe all these people... Now let's consider who these people are, the Canaanites, okay? Let's consider the Hittites. Okay, the Hittites were people that spoke an Indo-European language. They were essentially brothers and sisters of the Persians and the Greeks. Okay, those are their closest relatives culturally and genetically, I'm sure. So they were also also in the vicinity of them. Even when they were down there in Palestine at that time, they were also from up in the general area of the Macedonians, the Greeks, and the Persians, among others, Indo-European speaking peoples. And Cain married a Hittite. We know that much. So, and you can see what evidence of what I'm saying by going and looking at their art and their religion. Their art and their religion will tell you that that's true. So they're saying basically that Hashem, the genocidal god of koshers, is saying that if you don't get rid of all these people, kill everything that breathes. If it's breathing, you gotta kill it. And the reason you gotta do this is because their religion is more persuasive than my religion. That if you don't kill them all, then they are going to convert you to their religion. Okay, so this has all the earmarks of somebody trying to convince their population that everybody around them is bad, needs to be destroyed. Now I'm talking about when this was smuggled into the Bible, okay? So they're saying that our ancestors were told to smuggle these, or were told to kill all of these people that were here back then, but they didn't do it. They didn't get the job done. And now that's what we need to do now. And so when this was put in there, it wasn't back then at the time that you're supposed to believe it was said to the prophet. Or whoever it is claiming they got this message from what Moses. Okay, so they're trying to say that they were supposed to do this, and now here we are. This is our land. It was given to Abraham, and our ancestors were told not to let these people live here, but they didn't complete the work of Hashem was supposed to do, and now they're back again. Their descendants are still here, and now we've got to do it. We've got to finally do it, and this comes all the way to the present time, all the way to now. They're still saying it's their land. They're not giving any of it to the descendants of Esau. They're not giving it to the Christians, who are the real Israelites, according to the promise, which goes through the religion and not any kind of ancestral DNA or anything like that. So, anyways, this is where we're at, and you have people in Israel today saying we have to off all of these Palestinians, and they make it sound religious. Like this was given to us as a mandate, and I have a let me I don't know if it's still in my phone. I think I might have taken it out of my phone. Let me see if I can find it here.
It doesn't matter who your enemy is, you need to destroy their offspring to prevent them from creating more offspring.
So there you have it. A European girl, obviously a European girl down there in Palestine, as people are starving the children. They're starving the children. They've estimated, I think at this time, that they were saying that there's about 14,000 malnourished kids that are at risk of starving if they don't get food supplies to them. And at this point in time, Netanyahu, I'm not saying that these people are, it's hard to get into this because that girl is obviously not an Arab, okay? That's why I call her a European, because she's obviously not an Arab. Now, whatever the Hebrews were, they could have been as European looking as any European today. Any Iranian, any Greek, any maybe even any Celt. I don't know. But what I can say is that because of what's gone on over time, that girl stands out in that area. Okay, so she looks the way she does, not because she's a direct line from the Hebrew people. She's not a direct line from the Hebrew, because we know that the Hebrew people had changed the way they look. They tend to do that when they go live in other people's nations. For some reason, the men, I suppose, the men are always stepping out on their tribe, and having children from local women. And so when they're raised up, they are inculcated with this religion that makes them hate the people that are their ancestors, their own primary ancestors. As it turns out, over time, their primary ancestors are European, and according to them, by the way, that would make their primary ancestors descendants of Esau and Edom, and possibly even Amalek. But recently, they're saying that the Palestinians are Amalek, because they're fighting them. Obviously, anybody they don't like becomes Amalek, and they got to uproot them. So at any rate, here you have this girl down there with all these starving kids, and she can't find it within her heart to step over to the other side, the the uh, the opposition, and protest. Let's let those. And she's out there. That girl is out there, by the way, protesting the food delivery trucks. Don't let them in. Don't let them in. That's what they're there for. Don't feed these people. So she wants them all dead. That's what she's explaining. She's explaining that God told them. God told them. So okay, let's get back to the chimp out. Where did I go with this? Let me think about, how did I get to this subject? Okay, so it has something to do with chimping out, but right now I'm guessing that sometimes you just give license to people to chimp out, and people sometimes use religion to chimp out. Okay, so what has become a religion now is this anti-racism. It's become a religion. So, and it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. What makes sense is for people to prefer their own, and everybody recognizes this. So when you go to a Chinese restaurant, do you really expect them to have European girls working there? You know, if you do see a European girl working in a Chinese restaurant, I'm not talking about one of these fast food ones. I'm talking about an actual Chinese restaurant. If you go in there and you see a European girl, the first thing you're going to think of, they need more customers. And maybe they think that if they have a European waitress or something, that will draw more. I actually experienced this somewhere in, it was someplace in, I think it was in Utah or possibly Wyoming. No, it was in Wyoming. It was up in Wyoming. It was out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, off one of the major interstates, maybe 90, I-90. And that's what I thought. They have the European waitress because they want to draw more customers, because there's a lot of